So you're building a team. The question is, how do you lead it? Marianne DeNovellis here with the 6-Figure Mastermind. Let's really discuss the nuts and bolts of how this really works. All right, let's talk about leadership. First of all, I want to recommend an amazing book that I have read. It's called Leadership and Self-Deception by the Arbinger Institute. Amazing book. Go check it out. But I want to talk about specifically what it means to be a leader and how to be an amazing leader. I'm going to give you 3 keys for being leadership, but I'm going to ask you to go with me on this journey because some of the keys might sound a little bit confusing at first, but just trust me with it. Let's go with it and take some amazing insight for leadership. Now, why do you need to be a leader? Maybe you're in a family and you need to take a leadership position in a family. Maybe you just got married and you're like, okay, we're co-leaders here. We're taking a leadership position here. Maybe you are in a workplace situation where you're a leader, you're a supervisor, you're a manager, you're a leader in there. Maybe you're running an entrepreneurial organization where you have a leadership over your group of entrepreneurs. Or maybe you're in a multi-level marketing business where you're a leader of that specific team. So many different ways to be a leader. You could be a teacher, you could be an educator, you could be in your local communities or your church groups, whatever it is. There's so many ways to be a leader. And even if it's just you are the leader of your own life. So let's get the expert mastery on leadership and know how to take and put your best step forward. So here's the first step. When you're being an amazing leader, lead from the front. You've probably heard this before. To lead from the front of the room, to go first, to take your position, to take your place as leader. But what does it actually mean to do that? You know, I can remember when I was working in my business and I was working in this corporation with a lot of other people, and I felt like, I have so much to offer, but I was slamming on the brakes and not giving myself permission to make that available to my community, to my group, and to my work. And I thought, and I'll never forget this. I was sitting in my master bathroom one day and I thought, I know that I have amazing things to offer. I'm sitting there, put on my makeup, and I was like, why am I doing this? Why am I getting ready for the day? Why am I going into this organization? And when is it going to be my turn? I had all of these, maybe you've done this too. Maybe you've seen all of these great figureheads in your organization, whatever it happens to be. Maybe you've got some idols or some heroes or some people that you look up to in your organization. And maybe at some point you've said, man, someday I want to be just like them. Or maybe even I want to be them when I grow up, whatever it is. I want you to get rid of that idea. Get rid of the idea that you want to be another person. Guess what? They're already taken. They are that person. You get to be your version. You get to be your magnificent you. So when I say lead from the front, it means to take your turn. Opportunity knocks, and sometimes we don't open the door. Sometimes opportunity is pounding on the door, trying to break in, and you are boarding up the walls and the windows and the doors and not letting it in because you're too afraid to take your spot. You're too afraid to take your turn. There's something about that leadership that is intimidating or scary for you. When you are taking your turn as a leader, that means I claim leadership. I claim that I am a leader, that I know what to do, that I am taking charge of my world. I'm taking charge of my life. I'm grasping the opportunity. I'm bringing it with me. I am saying I get to be that person. I don't get to be another person. I get to be me. And the more authentic I am in me, the greater leader from the front that I will be. When you lead from the front, you have to lead by example. And that means whatever you want your client base to do, whatever you want your leadership community, whatever organization you have that stewardship over, you get to lead by example. And that brings me to key number 2. Key number 1 was leading from the front. Key number 2, lead from the side. You just told me to lead from the front. What are you talking about, lead from the side? I'm talking about leading by example. So let's say that in your organization, maybe you are in construction. You're a master leader, you're the head of the company, and you've made a name for yourself in business. And in this example, let's just say that you've hired a bunch of people to come in and they're digging a trench to lay a foundation for a brand new wall going up. An excellent leader won't just go up and say, hey, good job digging that trench down there. You're doing great work, but my hands aren't dirty. A great leader will lead from the side in that they will get down in the trench with you and help you dig the foundation and help you lay the stones and help you pour the concrete and be a side-by-side mentor with you to walk through that step by step. Your knowledge base may be higher than the person next to you, but your leadership is from the side, meaning that I will stand next to you and teach you everything that I know. I never forgot this experience when I was out on a ropes course one day and we were climbing on this climbing wall. And we were paired up in teams, and the teams had to do this. They had to get both people from the bottom to the top of the wall. And the way my team, that was all the instruction we had, was to get from the bottom to the top of the wall. And then they threw a wrench in the clockwork and said, but one of you is blindfolded. Okay, so I was the one this time that got to go blindfolded. I'm super adventurous. I was like, hey, I'll do it. That sounds really fun and cool. So I'm starting to climb this wall, and my teammate also had to climb the wall. And my teammate got up to the top of the wall. They weren't blindfolded, so they could see where all the hand and footholds were, and they got to the top. Okay, and they were looking down and seeing what they thought was the perfect pathway for me. And I got to a point on the wall where I was spread out, all hands and legs, just like a starfish stuck to the wall, and I didn't know where to go. I couldn't see. I had no perspective of where I was or how close to the top I was. And the person at the top of the wall, my teammate, said, Marianne, all you need to do is jump 6 inches from where you're at and grab that next handhold, and then you'll have the whole series of handholds to the top. And so I'm thinking, okay, I can't see what he's talking about. I've got this blindfold on. I'm spread eagle on the wall. I don't know where to go, what to do. But my leader is telling me that if I just jump 6 inches, then I will be able to grab that next handhold. Okay, so they've got eyes. I don't. I'm going to trust it, and I'm going to jump. Well, as you can imagine, jumping on a wall starting off isn't really that easy to begin with. Never mind jumping for something that you can't see. When I made the jump, I could reach up with my hand and I completely missed the handhold. And that's why they have these carabiners in the harnesses, because if you do something dumb like that, you jump off a wall that you're stuck to and you're blindfolded, the harness will catch you. And, I had a great belay team. They took really good care of me, but I completely missed the target. And here's what happened. I got back on the wall. As you can imagine, my mind was like, I'm kind of questioning the instructions of my leader here, because the last one didn't work out so well, but he's the one with the eyes. He can still see. I'm going to have to just trust that for now. So I start back on that wall. I'm climbing up. I hoist myself up. I grab his hand and I get over the wall to the very, very top. Take off the blindfold. Congratulations. Yay, you did it. Awesome. We zip line down and we're having our debrief at the end. And the facilitator of the ropes course asked about that specific moment where I needed to jump and my coach told me to jump. And he said, the facilitator said to my teammate, to my coach, he said, why did you ask Marianne to jump? And he said, well, I figured she was just 6 inches away. She could make it. And the leader said this. He said, can I offer you a different perspective? And he said, sure, that sounds great. The leader who was leading this ropes course was leading from a perspective that was different from my teammate. And here's what he said. He said, what you were seeing wasn't actually what was happening. That handhold was actually 1.5 feet away from her instead of 6 inches. But you couldn't see because you were leading from the top down rather than from her side. Imagine what would happen if you had eyes, she's blindfolded, but if you had been next to her on that wall the entire time, been able to take her hand and place it on the handhold instead of telling her to jump for something that your perspective is actually skewed on, imagine how much more successful you would be. So leading from the side means even if you have more knowledge, more expertise, or maybe especially if they have more knowledge and expertise, to lead from the side of the person that you're teaching so that you can see from the same perspective that they can see. Perspective changes everything. If you're leading from the top down, your perspective will be distorted than if you're leading right from the side. Here's the third tip in leadership. We've got lead from the front, lead from the side. Now I'm going to ask you to lead from the back. Leading from the back, now you're really confusing me, Marianne. You told me to lead from the front. I need to split myself and lead from the side. And now I need to split myself again and lead from the back. What does this all mean? Well, let me share with you what leading from the back means. Let's go back to the ropes course. When you had that team leader who was facilitating the ropes course that could see that proper perspective, not only could he see a better perspective than what he was leading from the person who was leading from the top down, but he was also a support. When you lead from the back, that makes you a support to your team. You can't belay someone on a ropes course from the top down. You can't even belay someone from the side over. In order for you to support the person that's on the ropes course, you need to be leading from behind, underneath. The person that was leading from underneath and behind was supporting my weight. When I made that blind jump trying to get up that wall, I fell. But I didn't fall more than 6 inches because I had my support team behind me on the ground. Someone who could support my weight, someone who knew how to put the brakes on the harness, and someone who could put me back on the wall when that time came. When you lead from the back, you are a support should anything happen. Should someone fall on your team, you see it. You have the perspective. If you're leading from the top down, if you're completely blind, only leading from the front, you may not see someone fall. So if you're building an organization, if you're building a team, if you're leading in your family, if you're leading in your community, make sure you have the perspective from the back so that you can support your entire group. So that way no one slips through the cracks, because you're there to lead from the back, to catch them, to encourage them, to support them, to belay them, to bring them to where they need to be. Not back to square one, but get them back in the proper next step for them. Maybe that is step one for them. Maybe that's just starting from where they're at. But leading from the back allows you to be the perfect support system for your team. So those are your 3 keys to amazing leadership. You know what it takes. Go out there and make it happen. Now you know what it means to lead from the front, you know what it means to lead from the side, and you know what it means to be a support by leading from behind. I would love to hear from you on what your feedback is on how you do this best. So, just drop a comment below, just go down there and type some fun stuff in. I'd love to have a conversation with you. Hit the subscribe button, and I will see you tomorrow.